On today's show, should the LA Clippers trade for Philadelphia 76ers star James Harden? The pros and cons to a James Harden trade. Does he really fit the identity of what the Clippers are trying to achieve in LA? Or are they just better off without James Harden and without the potentially added drama? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, you shouldn't have to worry or stress when you're buying tickets, right? You're trying to go out and have a good time. Nobody wants to worry about the logistics of how you're going to get the tickets, right? That's always just make it easy with Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events happening near you. They've got last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, and so many more. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They've got views from the seats at the venue so you know exactly the type of bang that you're getting for the buck that you are spending. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and so much more. Game Time is the best way to get tickets for whatever event is happening near you. And you could check them out. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Sixers, Keith Pompey. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Sixers. And Keith, this James Harden circus, if you will, is still churning out a lot of, maybe not as much training camp drama as we thought there was going to be, but you have the initial, no-show media day, not at training camp. Now then he shows up to training camp. You've got Daryl Morey saying he doesn't appreciate being called a liar, that he's been, nothing but honest in his 20 years as a general manager. There's a lot going on with this Philadelphia 76ers team. So walk us through a little bit of this past week. You've been there, boots on the ground at training camp, covering this team. What are you seeing? What are you hearing about the James Harden situation?
It's funny, man. Like, this is the weirdest situation because, when you look at it, the beef is between James and Daryl Morey. Like, you go there and after practice, when they let the media in, James is just laughing and joking, getting his workout in. He's laughing with several of the coaches there, who were, had ties with the Houston Rockets. It's just bizarre, but you hear that. I mean, bizarre for a person who held out. They normally don't act that way. So what you understand is that the beef that James Harden has is with Daryl Morey and no one else. You know what I mean? It's kind of like James is getting along with everyone except Daryl. And, what I'm hearing is, James still wants to be traded. The Los Angeles Clippers, are trying to put a package together for him. But the Sixers don't want pick swaps. They want first-round picks. So, definite first-round picks. So it's one of those things where, it changes, not changes, but you never know what's going to happen from like hour to hour to day. But it's bizarre because James gets along with everyone besides Daryl.
And it makes me think, Keith, because he's getting along with everybody, the players, the coaches, pretty much organizationally top to bottom, except the one guy kind of in charge of everything. Is there a world where he almost maybe is able to commit like a coup where he gets Joel on his side, Maxey on his side, the coaches, and convinces maybe Sixers ownership, hey, like, I'll still play for this team, I'll be here, and this is still your best chance to win a title with me, with Embiid, with Maxey, but you got to get rid of Daryl Morey to do it.
Yeah, I don't know if that will happen. I don't know if that will happen. Now let's face it. I believe that Daryl Morey is on the clock. Like, I do believe if they don't get out of the second round this year, that Daryl Morey is going to be gone. I don't think that it's going to happen right now as far as getting rid of him, because let's face it, if Daryl Morey wanted to pay him the money he would have, or if the owners would enable Daryl Morey to pay him, he would have. So when you look at that, you know, I don't think it was all up to Daryl. I think it was the owners who actually didn't want to invest that much into James, if that makes sense to you.
No, that I mean that kind of does when you spin it that way. The whole situation though, you've said it, it is kind of just absurd. It's kind of crazy. I mean, at this point, when you look at the way that the Clippers are trying to facilitate a potential trade package for James, it kind of feels like maybe you get the sense that the Clippers don't think that they need James. They would like to add him, right? But the holdup is currently about Terrence Mann, which he'd be a great addition to the 76ers. But if you're looking at it this way, can we maybe expect, like, should the Clippers be trying to wheel and deal with other teams individually, or is it trying to rope in a third team who maybe has more draft capital to offer? What would you kind of envision as a potential James Harden deal at this point?
You know what? I do think that that's what the Clippers are trying to do. They're trying to rope into a third team to get the picks. And the thing is, that's potential. See, right now, I don't know if you can get for James. I don't know if you can get an all-star caliber player, right? Sixers just don't have the assets to send with James to do that, right? So that's where these picks become important for a team that has, a star player that they're trying to unload, whereas they can send those picks to the Sixers and then get something back in return, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, but or excuse me, they could send the player to the Sixers and that team will get something back in return. So, I mean, I can see that happen, but right about now is really, especially with James not playing, it's tough to say like James Harden, you're going to bring in two starters and like 3 first-round picks in addition to Terrence Mann. It's like right now, I just don't see him, getting that. I don't think that his value is viewed very highly right now around the league.
Yeah, is James even a commodity anymore around the league? Like, it feels like his value has just plummeted almost overnight.
You know what? That's a great question. I feel like if James Harden came out and said, you know what, last year I led the league in assists. I think that's what my focus is going to be on. I want to be a facilitator. I want to be a leader of a team. I believe that James would be a commodity. But I think that, the perception of James is right now that he wants to go out there and be Houston Rockets James Harden. Like he wants to be the guy who's going to get all the buckets. He's going to be the guy who like contends for a scoring title, Mr. Excitement. And right now, no team is willing to basically invest in that. They're just not. But I feel like if he said, hey, I want to be the leader, I want to do this, I want to do that, be a great facilitator, I think he would be a commodity as a second or third option on a team.
How should we expect this situation to kind of continue? If training camp wrapped up, we're rolling into preseason now. The Sixers just wrapped up their first preseason game. A lot of guys missing that game, so no Joel, no James out there on the court. But do you get the sense that James is willing to play ball and just be an active, participating member of Sixers basketball, or is he going to have these moments where he's, no, I don't want to do media, or I'm not playing this game, trying to again force his way out to force Daryl Morey's hand?
I think that's a great question. And no one knows the answer to it. You talk to people who are familiar with James, they don't know. I mean, they think that this is something the Sixers don't know. They think that this is something that's just not going to be day by day, but actually hour by hour, to a point where when James showed up for camp, like people weren't even 100% sure that he was going to come. Even though he was in the hotel, with the team, people weren't 100% sure that they would see James at training camp. So to me personally, I feel like James is doing everything. He's being great. He's doing this and that. But I also feel like there's something inside that he's doing this with the expectation that he's going to get traded. And I feel like the longer that this thing goes on, we could see James Harden acting up, right? We just could, and it could be unbearable for the Sixers. So that's where I'm at. But in regards to it, it's crazy when you talk to people. They're all like, they're not day to day. They're saying hour to hour. They just don't know what to expect.
Will James Harden ultimately make his way to the LA Clippers or even potentially another team? How will it look in Philadelphia while this situation unravels? You'll have us covered for all that and more over at Locked On Sixers. Keith, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On Me. I appreciate
Thanks
you
for
stopping
having
by
me.
Locked On NBA with me. There we go.
Thanks for having me.